Stop trying to be worthy. That's how the Buddha began, with no grand sermon, no thunder in his voice, no promise of reward, just the quiet truth shared between a father and his son beneath the shade of a tree. The moon hung low that evening round, as a monk's bowl casting pale silver over the monastery grounds. You sit there now in that memory, made soft where grass brushes your ankles, and the stone beneath you holds the heat of the sun's farewell. You feel the quiet weight of enoughness settle into your spine, your breath, your fingers resting in your lap. Rahula, the Buddha's only son, was young when he joined the Sangha, eager, earnest, always trying to prove himself. He wanted to be worthy of his father's teachings, but the Buddha saw through the striving. And so he asked Rahula a simple question. What is the purpose of a mirror? Rahula answered for reflection. And so it is, the Buddha said, you must reflect on every action, word, and thought, before, during, after. You breathe into that teaching like steam rising from tea. Reflection, not judgment. Awareness, not performance. A breeze stirs the bamboo behind you. You close your eyes, and in that hush you feel what Rahula must have felt, the longing to be better, calmer, more enlightened. The desire to be praised, the quiet ache of not feeling quite enough. But the Buddha wasn't teaching Rahula to become someone better. He was reminding him of what he already was. You rest deeper into the earth. The cool smell of soil, the trace of incense still lingering from evening offerings. Somewhere nearby, a bowl rings once long and low, and the sound continues even after the ears stop hearing. This is the sound of not trying. You don't need to fix anything. You don't need to rise above yourself. You don't need to prove a single thing to the world, not tonight. You only need to see, to reflect like the still surface of a pond that holds the moon without effort, even when the wind moves across it. Maybe you've spent your whole life being Rahula, trying to be the good student, trying to be calm, trying to be valuable, trying to be enough. But you too can sit here under this imagined tree. You too can look into your own breath and see not what you lack, but what has always been present. Stillness, awareness, gentle truth. In the Buddha's silence, Rahula began to understand. He didn't need to become someone else. He needed to return to himself. And so do you. Let the striving soften. Let the breath move through you, like river water, cool cleansing, unhurried. You're not here to be worthy. You're here to be. The night deepens, the moon rises, and your reflection grows quieter and clearer with every breath. You walk slowly now through a path of smooth stones and fallen leaves, each step like a thought you no longer need to carry. The moss beneath your feet is soft, cool, and damp with the breath of the earth. Overhead, lanterns flicker faintly, their light trembling in the hush of night. You pass under an archway carved long ago by hands who have long since returned to the soil. Everything whispers impermanence here. Everything teaches without speaking. In the story, Rahula once prepared the Buddha's wash basin with water. The bowl was only partially filled. The Buddha gestured to it and said, "See how little water there is." Rahula nodded. Such, the Buddha said, is the worth of those who tell deliberate lies. You pause. It's easy to flinch at words like that. Easy to recoil thinking they mean harshness or shame. But the Buddha wasn't scolding. He wasn't angry. He was planting a seed, a lesson hidden inside the shape of simplicity. The half-filled bowl wasn't bad. It simply wasn't full, that's all. And so too with truthfulness, with integrity. Not something you earn to be good, just something you hold if you want to live clearly. You sit beside an old stone well, moss gathered at its base, the wood of its frame worn smooth by the hands of countless monks. You peer inside. The water down below reflects the stars above. And just like that, one breath, one moment, you realize what's reflected is what's offered. When you are honest with yourself, you become a surface clear enough to reflect the sky. You think of your own life. When have you spoken to impress? When have you performed calmness instead of living it? When have you said yes out of fear, no out of pride, or stayed silent when your heart needed voice? And yet this is not confession. This is reflection. This is the kind of looking the Buddha invited Rahula into. A mirror held gently, not critically. You don't condemn the pond for its ripples. You simply wait for it to still. And in that stillness, everything reveals itself. You return your attention to your breath, not by force, just by remembering. The way clouds return to the sky after rain, the way light returns to a room when the curtain is drawn aside. In, out, you feel it in your chest, in your shoulders, in your throat. In, out, the rhythm of being, not performing, not proving, just being. The Buddha then poured out the water from the basin and asked Rahula, "Do you see this water I've thrown away?" "Yes, venerable sir." Such is the worth of those who are not ashamed to lie. But again, this isn't punishment, it's metaphor. You watch the water splash against stone, absorbed by the earth. A teaching. When you lie to yourself or others, not just with words, but with postures, with masks, with endless striving, you pour your own clarity away. But nothing is lost forever. The ground drinks it in, and rain returns, and even thrown water finds its way back to the sea. Rahula sat quietly with that lesson. He didn't argue. He didn't resist. He simply allowed it to settle. And you can too. There's nothing to fix tonight. There's nothing wrong with you. You are learning to see, not for the sake of judgment, but for peace. Like a tea leaf opening slowly in warm water, you unfold with time. You notice how your shoulders soften a little more, how your hands rest more easily in your lap, how the thoughts that once tugged at you now drift like feathers on wind. You sit longer beside the well, not waiting for answers, just watching the sky settle into stone. Rahula would become known for his mindfulness, for his quiet integrity, not because he forced himself into shape, but because he learned to reflect before acting. And you tonight, you too are learning. That peace doesn't come from being perfect. It comes from pausing, looking gently, and letting what is already enough rise to the surface. The bowl doesn't need to overflow. It only needs to be clear. There's a silence deeper than quiet, a kind of hush that doesn't come from the absence of sound, but from the soft presence of something greater than words. You feel that now as you walk through the temple's inner garden. The path curves gently, and the moon casts long shadows across the raked gravel. Each stone, each leaf, each breeze feels placed with intention, as if even the wind knows how to bow. You pause beside a stone basin. Water ripples from a bamboo spout, drop by drop, echoing into a shallow pool. That sound, steady, slow, precise, is a kind of teaching. A reminder, you don't need to rush. You don't need to grasp. One drop, one breath, one moment at a time. The Buddha once said to Rahula, even a well-trained horse that forgets its steps must still be watched. He didn't mean that the horse was wrong or broken, only that awareness, like a candle's flame, must be tended gently again and again. You sit on a smooth stone nearby the kind worn down by generations of monks resting in the same spot. There's something comforting in knowing others have sat here before you. Others have wrestled with doubt, with effort, with the feeling of not being enough. Rahula had that feeling too, that impulse to become someone better, to live up to the Buddha's name. But the teachings he received weren't about achievement. They were about attention. Reflect as a mirror reflects, the Buddha told him. A mirror doesn't cling to what it sees. It doesn't judge. It shows clearly, and then it lets go. So you become that mirror tonight. You notice your breath, not to control it, but to meet it. Inhale, and you feel the coolness at the tip of your nose. Exhale, and you feel the warmth leaving your chest. Each breath returns you to now, and in this now you are whole. Nearby, a moth flutters near a paper lantern, drawn to the light, but careful not to touch. You watch its delicate dance and think of all the ways you've danced around your own inner flame, sometimes afraid to approach what is already true, already present. You remember times you've put on a calm face, even when your heart was trembling. You recall moments you acted out of what you thought others wanted to see. And still here you are, breathing, watching, learning how to soften into yourself. The Buddha's teachings to Rahula weren't stern rebukes. They were invitations to awareness, gentle redirects, like a guiding hand on the shoulder, like a bell that rings not to scold, but to call you back. You look into the surface of the basin again. A few leaves float lazily undisturbed. The moon reflects between them. It's not a perfect reflection, but it's enough. And that's the teaching. Enough doesn't mean complete. Enough means sufficient for this moment. You've chased completeness. We all have. But completeness is a moving goalpost. Enough is here. You walk a little further down the path and find a bench beneath a flowering tree. The petals have begun to fall, scattering across the stone like offerings made by the wind. You sit again, letting gravity take you fully. In the quiet, you begin to feel the places in your body that are still holding on. Maybe your jaw, maybe your belly, maybe that space behind your heart. Let them unclench. Let the petals fall. Let the breath keep you company. And slowly, like tea cooling in its cup, you feel a shift. Not a dramatic transformation, just a quiet return to yourself, to a version of you that doesn't need polishing, that doesn't need to strive, that doesn't need to become enlightened tonight. Rahula didn't become mindful in a day, but each moment he practiced reflection, each time he watched his thoughts, without grabbing them each time he remembered the mirror that was enough. And so is this moment for you, this sitting, this noticing, this not fixing. You are not a project. You are a presence, like the flower that blooms without effort, like the candle that gives light just by being lit, like the moon reflected on still water. Your worth is not something to be achieved. It is something to be remembered again and again. And tonight, beneath this sky, beside this stone basin, within this breath, you remember you are enough. There's a bamboo grove nearby, tall and slender, swaying gently in the breeze. You find yourself walking toward it, drawn not by any reason, but by the sound hollow wooden knocks as the stalks tap against one another. It's not a loud sound, it's not even rhythmic, but somehow it's exactly what your heart needs right now. You sit at the edge of the grove, the ground soft with fallen leaves and packed earth. The wind picks up slightly, rustling through the stalks, whispering through the leaves. It sounds like someone turning the pages of a book you've read before, but forgotten. You don't need to read it again. You just need to remember what was already known. The Buddha once taught Rahula a lesson using a water jug. He held it up and asked, "Is this jug empty, Rahula?" "Yes," the boy replied. "But can it still hold water?" the Buddha asked. "Yes, it can." The Buddha nodded slowly, the way only someone deeply at peace can nod. "Then understand, Rahula, emptiness is not useless. Emptiness makes the jug useful. You breathe that in. You've feared emptiness before. Emptiness of achievement, emptiness of recognition, emptiness of knowing exactly who you are or what comes next. But now, sitting here under the breathing bamboo, you begin to understand. Emptiness is not a void. It is spaciousness. It is readiness. It is capacity, like the space between musical notes that makes the melody possible, like the silence between heartbeats that allows the rhythm of life to continue. You close your eyes and feel your own inner jug. Is it full of noise, full of effort, full of trying, or is it finally gently empty? You place one hand on your belly and feel it rise, fall. The breath fills the space like water poured slowly into the jug. Not too much, not rushed, just enough. This is how you begin again. You remember Rahula as a boy, eager to fill his jug with virtue, to do the right thing, say the right words, be the worthy son. But the Buddha didn't rush to fill him with lessons. He didn't pour endlessly into him. He waited. He pointed to space, to silence, to the readiness to receive. And that too is a teaching. You sit with the breeze touching your cheeks like the edge of a silk robe. You hear the rustle of bamboo. You notice the warmth at the crown of your head and the coolness at your bare feet. Everything is present. Everything is already teaching. Even the jug that appears empty is full of possibility. In your own life, you've carried so many expectations from others, from yourself. You've filled your jug with plans, labels, timelines, fears of falling short. And when it overflows, you wonder why you feel so tired. But here under the open sky, there is no need to carry so much. You are allowed to empty. You are allowed to release. You are allowed to trust that the spaciousness you feel now is not loss. It is freedom. Rahula learned to see his mind as a vessel. He learned to observe the thoughts that poured in and poured out. And eventually, he learned not to identify with the contents, not to fear the empty moments, not to grasp at fullness for the sake of being full. The jug was never broken. It was only holding too much. And so too with you. You don't need to be filled to be valuable. You don't need to hold it all to be complete. There is wisdom in the pause. There is peace in the space. You let that truth settle like tea leaves sinking to the bottom of a clear cup. No need to stir. No need to interpret. Just let it steep. Let it become part of you. The moonlight begins to slant through the grove, now casting long shadows and pale highlights on the stalks. Each one sways with the wind but does not fall. It bends, it yields, it dances, but it does not break. Another lesson, not in being rigid or always correct, but in allowing movement, in adapting, in accepting. Rahula learned that to be a vessel for the Dharma, he had to be hollowed out, not in a way that made him less, but in a way that made room. And tonight, so do you. Let go of the performance. Let go of the mask. Let go of the pressure to get it right. Your jug does not need polishing. Your jug does not need to be compared to others. It only needs to be yours, and it is. Right now, you are enough just as you are, half full, half empty, or resting quietly between the two, still present, useful in your very being. You place both hands over your heart and smile, maybe not with your lips, but with something deeper, something ancient within you that recognizes this moment for what it is. A return, a soft, sacred remembering. The jug is not broken, and neither are you. The wind changes again, slightly colder now, brushing against your cheek with the gentleness of a memory. You follow it deeper into the monastery grounds, where the gravel path turns to packed earth and the temple bells have long since quieted. It's the kind of quiet that you feel in your chest more than you hear with your ears. A quiet that makes even your thoughts walk a little softer. Ahead there is a hall. Its sliding doors are half open, revealing a single candle burning low. You step inside without a sound, the wood beneath your feet creaking just enough to remind you that everything, even stillness, has a voice. This is the hall where monks listen, not just to teachings, but to what lives between the words. You sit at the back, where the shadows stretch long across the floor. Your body settles naturally, the way a boat rests when it finds calm water. And here in this silence, you remember another of the Buddha's teachings to Rahula. He once said, "Just as the earth receives all things clean and unclean, fragrant and foul, and remains undisturbed, so too should your heart remain undisturbed." You breathe that in, letting it spread through your body like warm light. The earth doesn't flinch when storms arrive. It doesn't tremble at footsteps or protest the falling leaves. It receives, it holds, and so can you. Tonight you are not here to resist your emotions or filter your thoughts. You are here to attend to them, to notice, like a temple bell that doesn't strike itself, but echoes fully when struck. The Buddha once asked Rahula to consider speech like the ringing of a bell. Is it true? Is it beneficial? Is it timely? He would say. But more importantly, does it come from stillness, not from reaction, not from defense, not from the hunger to be understood or validated, but from the kind of silence that has listened long enough to understand? You sit now in that kind of silence. You remember moments when you spoke quickly trying to prove something, times when you answered before the question even finished landing. You think of the conversations that stayed with you, not because of what was said, but because of what was not said. The quiet that followed, the wish to take it back, or the gentle grace of being forgiven anyway. The Buddha taught Rahula that before speaking or acting, one must reflect, not out of fear, not to avoid mistakes, but to bring clarity into the world, like bringing a lantern into a dark room, not to chase away the dark, but to see what's already there. You return to your breath, not to escape, but to meet yourself again. Inhale cool, steady, like air passing over mountain snow. Exhale warm, round, like tea steam rising in early morning. You feel your chest soften, your shoulders release. The space around your heart gently opens like a paper fan unfolded in slow motion. You are not here to perfect your words. You are here to hear the silence beneath them. There's an old story told in monasteries about a bell too cracked to ring. The monks debated what to do with it: melt it down, repair it, cast a new one. But one evening during meditation, a gust of wind passed through the bell tower, and the bell, imperfect and broken, sang anyway. A soft, uneven sound, but one that echoed through the valley. The monks listened, and they wept, because it reminded them that even broken things have their voice, that even what we consider imperfect can still speak the truth. You rest your palm over your heart again, remembering the times you silenced yourself because you didn't trust your voice, the times you over-explained or withheld or shaped your words to be palatable. But the truth doesn't need to be perfect. It only needs to be offered gently, like a cracked bell in the wind, like a whisper that says, "I am here and I am still worthy." Rahula too had to learn this, not overnight, not in a single teaching, but over time, by sitting by, listening, by noticing the way silence teaches without reprimand. And so do you, right now. You notice the way your body holds tension, then lets go. The way a single candle flickers near the altar, steady in its glow. The way your own thoughts pass by, like monks in the hallway bowing as they leave, not needing to stay. This is enough, not because you've learned everything, but because you've remembered something simple. You don't need to shout to be heard. You don't need to have all the answers to rest. You don't need to be uncracked to ring true. Your breath is enough. Your presence is enough. Your quiet heart tonight is more than enough. Let the silence remain. Let the bell within you ring softly. Let your voice, imperfect and sincere, rise with the wind, and trust it will reach where it's meant to go. You step outside once more into the quiet breath of midnight. The air has grown cooler, the sky deeper in its indigo, with only the moon and a scatter of distant stars to witness your slow return down the path. Gravel crunches softly beneath your feet, the sound barely rising above the hush of the wind, threading its way through bamboo and pine. To your left, a stand of bamboo leans and sways together, flexible, never breaking. They rise straight and hollow, bending with grace in every direction the wind chooses. You stop to observe them and feel something loosen inside you, something unspoken but long held. In the scriptures, the Buddha once pointed to bamboo as a model of the wise person, strong yet yielding, firm yet not rigid, and above all, empty inside, not in the sense of lacking, but in readiness. You sit at the base of the stalks, letting your back lean against one. The stalk is cool, smooth, and steady beneath your shoulder blades. It doesn't resist your weight. It simply allows it. That too is a kind of strength. In your life, you've tried to be strong, perhaps in the way we're taught, by holding everything together, by not bending, by carrying more than what fits. But true strength, like bamboo, has space within. Rahula learned this lesson, not through speeches, but through example. The Buddha didn't tell him to be perfect or invincible. He showed him what it looked like to yield without collapsing, to soften without losing shape, to bend in the wind of criticism, fatigue, desire, and still stand rooted. You breathe that in, a long, slow breath that reaches the bottom of your ribs. You remember the times you refused to bend, times you held your posture, your opinion, your fear so tightly It made your chest ache. Times when you confused resilience with rigidity. But rigidity snaps. Bamboo teaches a different wisdom. You look up. The stalks curve gently above you, their narrow leaves brushing together like whispers in an unseen language. They move as one, each individual, yet part of a whole, supporting, responding, adapting. Rahula in his early days was not unlike a young shoot, eager to grow tall, to impress, to be firm and unwavering. But as he practiced, his strength became quieter, softer, less about holding, more about allowing. You shift your weight slightly and feel how the earth beneath you gives just enough. It doesn't push back, it accepts. And suddenly you realize this entire moment is made of gentle support. The ground holding your weight, the bamboo offering its spine, the breeze cooling your skin, the silence welcoming your breath. Everything around you is yielding, and everything is still strong. You return to your breath, noticing again how the inhale arrives like a wave rising, and the exhale falls away like that same wave returning to sea. No force, no need to hold it. The breath knows what to do. You think of the times you tried to hold your breath, metaphorically or otherwise. The times you clenched your jaw, tightened your belly, steeled your mind, braced for something uncertain. But here there is nothing to brace for. Only breath, only now, only this flexible, flowing presence. The Buddha told Rahula once, be like the earth, be like water, be like the air, be like space. And now in the hush of this night, you begin to understand. Earth receives, water flows, air adapts. Space holds all things without clinging to any of them. You place one hand over your heart, the other over your belly. You feel the slow movement beneath your palms. This is your rhythm. This is your nature. Strong but not stiff. Present but not grasping. Aware but not afraid. Rahula's journey wasn't about becoming someone new. It was about shedding the tight armor of needing to prove. Letting go of the pressure to get it right. Becoming slowly, quietly, humbly, someone who could bend in the wind and remain standing. You think now of your own path, how many times you've wished to be unshakable, but maybe, just maybe, the real peace comes in being shakeable and choosing not to fall. You feel your spine align with the bamboo behind you. Your breath aligns with the breeze. Your thoughts drift like the leaves, no longer tangled, no longer clinging. You don't need to strive. You don't need to resist. You don't need to be unbending. Tonight you are allowed to move with the wind, to rest without tension, to exist without armor, to breathe without fear. Let your heart become like bamboo, strong in its softness, empty in its wisdom, held by roots you don't even need to see. You are not less for bending. You are more for allowing. And right now, in this moment, you are not waiting to become enough. You already are. Farther down the path past the bamboo grove, and beyond a low stone wall, there is a small kuti, a simple monk's hut. Its walls are made of woven reeds, and earth its roof patched with dried palm leaves and the occasional moss-covered tile. You walk toward it slowly, not out of hesitation, but because the world itself seems to be walking more softly now. Even the crickets hush their songs as you approach. Inside the hut is sparse: a cushion, a folded blanket, a clay water jug, a single bowl resting upside down. It is not beautiful by ordinary standards, and yet everything in it feels enough. More than enough, as if its emptiness is a deliberate act of compassion. You sit on the edge of the cushion and exhale slowly, the kind of exhale that takes several years to complete, not because of how long the breath is, but because of how long you've been holding it. Rahula once asked his father why renunciation, the life of simplicity and letting go, was praised so highly. Why abandon things? Why live with so little? And the Buddha answered not with rules or commandments, but with a story. He spoke of a blanket that was too small. If you pull it over your shoulders, he said, your feet grow cold. If you cover your feet, your shoulders shiver. And so it is with desires, with possessions, with endless striving. The more you try to cover everything, the more exposed you feel. You breathe into that truth now. You feel its presence, not just in your mind, but in the way your shoulders relax, in the way your spine gently curves as you settle into stillness. The blanket was never the problem. It's not about having more cloth. It's about accepting the size of the one you already have and learning how to wrap yourself in it with care. You glance around the hut. There's nothing here that doesn't belong. No clutter, no extras. Even the air itself seems intentional. You remember your own space, your home, your mind, your daily life, all the ways you've filled every corner, every minute, every thought. But does it bring warmth, or does it only keep you busy, adjusting the blanket over and over again? Rahula learned that simplicity wasn't deprivation, it was clarity. In a world so often rushing to accumulate, to acquire, to build and do and become, it takes courage to sit still in a small room and say, this is enough. You feel the cool floor beneath your knees. You touch the texture of the woven mat, frayed from years of knees like yours resting here. You think of the monks who once knelt in this space, repeating the same breath you now hold. No one knew their names. They did not become famous. They did not chase recognition, but they were warm. Warm not from wool or wealth, but from acceptance, from learning how to tuck the blanket of their lives just right. You pull the folded blanket toward you, now draping it lightly over your legs. It smells faintly of sandalwood and something older, perhaps time itself. You run your fingers along its edge. It doesn't reach your shoulders, but it doesn't need to. The Buddha wasn't teaching Rahula to reject comfort. He was teaching him to understand its nature, that even comfort, when clung to, becomes a chain. That peace doesn't mean controlling the world. Peace means allowing yourself to rest within it, even when the blanket is a little too short, even when life doesn't fully line up, even when your mind still whispers that you should be more, do more, have more. You listen to that whisper now, not to obey it, but to recognize it. It is not your enemy. It is simply a tired voice, a voice that forgot it was already enough. And you, dear one, are learning to remember. You lie back slightly on the cushion, the blanket covering only your lap. The rest of your body, your arms, your shoulders, your feet is left to the coolness of the air. But somehow this feels more honest, more peaceful. Rahula didn't need more things to find the Dharma. He needed less noise to hear it. And tonight, you are doing the same. No adding, no fixing, no stretching to cover what's already okay. Just this, just you, just a small hut, a small blanket, a large open sky, and a heart learning how to rest without shame. You place your palms together, not in prayer, but in acknowledgement of yourself, of this moment, of the quiet sufficiency all around you. You are not broken because something feels missing. You are not unworthy because life feels incomplete. Sometimes the blanket doesn't cover it all, and still you are warm. Still you are held. Still you are enough. The night deepens now. The stars gather closer, their quiet shimmer like a bowl of rice offered under moonlight, nothing grand yet wholly complete. You step out from the humble kuti, the folded blanket still warm where it once touched your knees. You carry nothing, no bag, no burden, not even a thought you can't put down. Only breath, only being. You walk along a path lined with old stone lanterns, their bowls empty. No flame inside, just the shape of holding. Even without fire, they keep their posture of offering, a quiet gesture of readiness, like open hands that never close. A breeze moves through the temple trees, shaking a few last leaves loose. One floats down, slow and spiraling, landing gently beside your foot. You pause to look. This is the moment Rahula once understood that transformation doesn't always feel like fire or thunder. Sometimes it feels like a leaf letting go. One evening long ago, the Buddha sat with Rahula beneath the trees, and the young monk asked, "How will I know when I've become good enough?" The Buddha smiled, not in mockery, but in that way only someone who's seen the truth smiles. He didn't answer right away. He picked up a candle and lit it, letting the warm glow settle between them. Then he said, "The candle does not strive to give light. It simply burns." Rahula blinked, unsure if it was a riddle or a lesson. But he didn't speak. He watched the flame. And so do you now. You find a place to sit beneath a gnarled Bodhi tree near the temple gate. Its roots break through the stone in quiet rebellion, and yet it holds the space like a guardian. You settle your body, folding your legs, gently hands resting in your lap as though they've been there forever. The candle, the flame, the stillness. You reflect. How often have you tried to be the light? By effort, by pretending peace, by forcing calm. But real peace doesn't announce itself. It simply glows. The candle doesn't judge the room. It doesn't evaluate whether it's worthy to illuminate. It doesn't say only if someone's watching. It burns, that's all. And the flame, though small, is enough. Your breath now is steady. You feel your chest rise and fall, not like effort, but like waves greeting shorelines they've known forever. There have been times when you confused productivity with worthiness. Times when you measured your value by how much you achieved, how well you were seen, how cleanly you performed the role of the peaceful one. But Rahula's story tells you otherwise. The Buddha taught him that discipline wasn't about image, it was about truth. And truth, like a flame, doesn't need to be large, just real. You feel a warmth growing in your belly now, not from outside, but from your own presence. A kind of quiet inner fire, not loud, not consuming, but steady. You are here. You are breathing, and you are glowing. This glow is not something to flaunt. It's not something to earn. It's what arises naturally when striving falls away. You remember moments from your own life when you felt most alive. They weren't the moments when everything went right. They were moments when you were fully there, listening, breathing, allowing. Unhidden. That's the candle. That's what the Buddha was pointing to in Rahula, the truth that enoughness has nothing to do with perfection. The candle can flicker. It can burn unevenly. It can lean in the wind, but if it still lights the way, even just a little, it has done its work. And so have you. You close your eyes not to turn away from the world, but to see it more clearly from within. You picture the flame again. Your breath follows its rhythm. Inhale, the flame steadies. Exhale, it leans and glows. Inhale, it gathers softly. Exhale, it releases without fear. No demand, no urgency. Just breath, just warmth, just light. Rahula once bowed before his father, not because he had achieved anything, but because he understood at last that the journey wasn't about reaching a state. It was about returning to one, returning to truth, to the flame that had always been burning. And you bow inward now, not as ritual, not as formality, but as a soft thank you to your own heart, to the truth that lives there, to the enoughness that glows even when no one else sees it. The candle doesn't ask for recognition, and neither do you. You shine because you are lit from within. You glow because you have stopped trying to become light and started allowing yourself to simply burn. Small, quiet, honest, and always enough. The night grows thick now, as if time itself is slowing to match the pace of your breath. You're still seated beneath the old Bodhi tree, its shadow sheltering you like an elder's embrace. In the distance, the last of the crickets chirp in slow rhythm, and the air feels suspended, neither warm nor cold, neither heavy nor light. Just balanced, just enough. You bring your attention gently to the body, not as a task, but as a return. Like a bird returning to a nest, it didn't realize it had been circling all along. The Buddha once taught Rahula about the body, not with charts or theories, but with gentle awareness. Be mindful of the breath in the body, he said. Be mindful of the posture. Be mindful of what arises and passes away. He didn't ask for analysis. He asked for presence. And so you begin. You feel your body where it meets the ground, your hips cradled by the cushion, your knees anchored into the earth, your spine lengthening not by force, but by breath. Inhale, and you feel your ribs gently expand like a gate opening inward. Exhale, and everything softens like a cloth settling over still water. Your awareness moves now like warm light tracing the contours of a room you've lived in for years, but are only now truly seeing. You notice the tension in your jaw, and you release it. You notice the space behind your eyes, and you soften it. You notice your hands resting in your lap, and you allow them to rest even more. This is not self-improvement. This is self-remembrance. Rahula too was invited to watch the body, not to perfect it, but to see it clearly, to understand its rising and falling, its changing nature, its silent wisdom. The body is not a problem to be solved. It is a temple that doesn't ask to be worshipped, only listened to. And tonight you listen. You hear the quiet hum of your circulation. You feel the warmth of your belly, the rise and fall of your breath, the way your throat opens just enough to receive air. This body has carried you through every moment of joy and grief. It has held you in stillness and in chaos. It has been tired, and it has been resilient, and it has always tried to be enough. You place a hand over your heart, and suddenly you can feel it, not just the physical thump-thump, but the gentle ache beneath it, the longing to be okay, the wish to be held, the quiet question that asks, am I doing this right? You answer that question, not with words, but with presence, with a soft breath, with a return. The Buddha once described the breath as a thread one that stitches body and mind together. When you're lost in thought, the breath is a way home. And so tonight, you follow the thread back to your chest, back to your belly, back to your spine, back to your hands, back to now. Rahula would go on to meditate for hours, days, years, not out of ambition, but because each time he returned to his breath, he remembered something simple and sacred that there was no need to reach, no need to grasp. The breath was always enough. And so it is for you. You've spent much of your life, perhaps, without even knowing it, trying to earn your place. In relationships, in work, in this world. But the body never asked you to be worthy. It only asked you to show up, to feel, to rest when tired, to move when needed, to breathe. You let that truth settle now like mist, sinking it into the folds of a valley. You don't need to be perfectly still. You don't need to be free of thought. You don't even need to feel peaceful. You only need to be here, in this body, with this breath. And in doing so, you fulfill the teaching completely. No enlightenment required. No cosmic awakening necessary. Just this. Just being aware of breath moving in the body, like wind stirring a curtain, like a wave rising and falling on the shore, like Rahula years ago, sitting beneath a tree, doing nothing more than being exactly where he was. You feel the gratitude now, not as a word, but as a warmth behind your ribs. Gratitude not for what you've done, but for what you've allowed. You've allowed yourself to be here. You've allowed yourself to listen. You've allowed yourself to stop trying. And in that pause, something real returns. You rest your awareness now, not on the breath, not on the thoughts, not even on the silence, but on the whole of you. Breathing, sitting, alive, complete. This is not a practice you must perfect. It is a home you can return to again and again. And the door's always open, even now, especially now. You rise slowly, not because you're in a hurry, but because the moment itself lifts you like mist rising from the surface of a still pond. Your limbs feel heavier now, but in the peaceful way that comes only after letting go. Not tired, just deeply softened. The path curves again this time toward the outer wall of the temple. There is a small stone bench tucked into the corner, half hidden by ivy and thyme. You sit again, and the stone welcomes your weight without judgment. The moon overhead has shifted in the sky, not quite high, not quite low, just drifting in that liminal space where night begins its long descent into morning. In your lap sits an empty alms bowl. You didn't bring it here, and yet there it is, smooth, simple hand-thrown clay. You run your fingers around the rim, feeling the imperfections. A chip here, a rough patch there. It has been used. It has been enough. The Buddha once taught Rahula using such a bowl. He said, even an empty bowl, when offered with sincerity, carries the fullness of the heart. You pause and breathe that in. An empty bowl is still sacred, still able to hold meaning, still worthy of being carried. So much of your life may have been spent trying to fill things, schedules, spaces, conversations, silences. Trying to be full of something skill, wisdom, usefulness, kindness, calm. And yet here in this quiet place, with this empty bowl in your lap, you begin to understand fullness is not always the goal. Sometimes it is your emptiness, your space, your openness, your willingness to receive that is most precious. You remember moments in your life when you were not able to give much, when you had no words of comfort, no great wisdom, no perfect calm to offer. Maybe all you could do was sit beside someone and be present. And maybe that was enough. Rahula learned this too, not from achieving mastery, but from being present with humility. The bowl he carried as a young monk often returned with little inside: a crust of rice, a half ladle of soup, a wilted sprig of greens. But he learned to accept it without resentment. He learned that the offering was not the meal, it was the presence of the giver. And so too with you. The world doesn't always need your greatness. Sometimes it just needs your quiet presence, your bowl held without expectation, your stillness shared without condition. You run your palm over the inside of the bowl now. It is cool smooth and echoes just slightly when you touch it. There is space in it, and that space is what makes it useful. That's what the Buddha meant. Not that you must be full to be worthy, but that your capacity, your emptiness, your readiness to hold what is given and let go when it's gone, that is the Dharma itself. You reflect on the times you've tried to be more, to fix everything, to never arrive empty-handed, to never say, "I don't know," to never let yourself show up without answers. But the deepest wisdom begins when the hands are empty, when the bowl is clean, when the breath is quiet. There's a soft sound now, the breeze shifting a wooden wind chime above the bench. Just two soft notes, distant and hollow, like the bowl, like a bell, like your own chest, open, resonant, receptive. Rahula learned to walk the village roads, barefoot bowl in hand, asking for whatever was freely given, not begging, but receiving, not demanding, but trusting. And in doing so, he learned something that cannot be found in books. He learned that when we stop chasing more, the enoughness reveals itself. You take another breath. It enters easily, as though the body has finally stopped guarding the door. You hold the bowl up toward the moon, not as ritual, but as symbol. Here I am, it says. Empty, yes, but ready, willing, unashamed, even without anything inside the bowl, still glows under moonlight. So do you. You set the bowl beside you and place your hands again over your belly, your breath deep and rhythmic. Your thoughts are fewer now, your body slower. You've stopped searching. You've stopped arranging your piece like furniture. You've stopped trying to impress the night. You are simply here. Rahula didn't become wise by striving. He became wise by listening, by holding the bowl, by holding space, by being present just as you are now. You close your eyes again, not to escape, but to feel what is already true, that you are not here to offer perfection. You are here to offer presence. You are not here to carry answers. You are here to carry the bowl, and that is more than enough. You rise again, leaving the empty bowl gently on the stone bench beside the ivy. It remains there silent, whole glowing faintly in the moonlight, as though waiting for another traveler to understand its quiet teaching. You walk on, not with urgency, but with the slow rhythm of someone who is no longer chasing anything. The path before you curves through a corridor of slender trees. Their trunks are pale and dappled like brushstrokes against the canvas of night. You hear your own footsteps echo softly one after another, like waves lapping against a wooden dock. And with each step, the weight of effort slips away. Ahead, a worn trail leads up the side of a gentle hill where the monastery's outer path folds back on itself, winding like a river, not toward a new destination, but toward where you began. Rahula once walked this very same path with the Buddha, tired and uncertain. He had studied, listened, practiced, but one evening he found himself overwhelmed with doubt. "I try so hard," he said, "but still I fall into old patterns." The Buddha didn't chastise him. He simply turned to his son and said, "The path folds back so you may meet yourself again." You breathe into that sentence, letting its truth soften the space between your ribs. You're not failing when you revisit old habits. You're not lost when you return to familiar thoughts. You're just walking the curve of your own becoming. And sometimes that means returning to a place you thought you had passed, returning to a lesson you thought you had mastered, returning to a feeling you thought you had outgrown. The spiritual path isn't a straight line. It's a spiral. It brings you back not because you failed to learn, but because now, with clearer eyes and softer breath, you can see what you missed before. You follow the winding path up the hill. There are places where your footing feels unsure, stones loose beneath your sandals' roots, catching gently at your feet. But you don't rush. You don't resist. You walk with the understanding that every turn, every pause, every repetition is part of the whole. You come to a bend in the trail where a small wooden sign is half buried in the moss. The characters are old faded, but still legible. It reads, "Return is the movement of the way." You sit down beside it, cross-legged on a stone, worn smooth by others who paused here before you. Inhale, exhale, return. In your own life, how often have you been harsh with yourself for circling back, for needing to rest again, for forgetting and remembering and forgetting once more? But what if remembering is the practice? What if starting over isn't a failure but a blessing? You sit longer in that thought. You remember the times you judged yourself too quickly, times you expected the path to be linear, times you felt you had gone backward. But now you see the backward steps, the detours, the pauses. These too are sacred. Rahula, in his humility, began to embrace the spiral. He stopped trying to rush through stages of insight. He allowed himself to revisit what he once rushed past, and as he did, his heart became steadier, like yours is now. You lie back on the mossy hillside, arms gently spread, gaze lifted toward the sky. The stars no longer feel like distant pinpricks. They feel close, like they too are circling, returning, breathing. There is a gentle breeze on your skin, like the earth is exhaling with you. You are no longer asking to be elsewhere, no longer pushing for progress. You're simply being here, right where the path curves. The moonlight glides over the slope, washing everything in silver. You run your fingers through the grass and feel the dew beginning to gather, as if the earth is softening in response to your stillness. You think of Rahula again, not as a monk, not as the Buddha's son, but as a person, just like you, someone who longed to grow but had to learn how to return, someone who realized that wisdom isn't a place you reach, it's a place you remember. And here you are, remembering. The way back is not behind you, it's beneath you. It's always been here. Every step you've taken, even the ones you thought were wrong, have led you to this very spot. You place a hand on your chest. You feel your breath, the heartbeat within it, the spiral within the beat, the circle within the breath. Everything returns, even you, especially you. A soft rain begins not enough to send you seeking shelter, just enough to remind you that the sky too participates in your unfolding. The drops are fine, gentle, and evenly spaced, like the steady ticking of a clock that doesn't demand attention. You let them land on your skin without flinching. Cool and clean, they run down your arms, gather in your palms, and drip quietly onto the mossy earth beneath you. You don't move. You've been here before in this kind of rain, in this kind of silence, not just tonight, in your life. The moments when change came, not as thunder or fire, but like this slow, persistent quiet. The kind of transformation that takes place beneath awareness, like roots drinking deeply without fanfare. The Buddha once told Rahula, just as the earth is soaked quietly by rain, so too does the Dharma settle into the heart of one who does not resist. You feel the truth of it now. You don't need to chase insight. You don't need to grasp at stillness. Like rain, wisdom enters you gently if you let it. You taste the clean scent in your breath. Rahula, like you once thought, progress meant motion, doing learning, fixing. But the Buddha showed him otherwise. One morning during walking meditation, the Buddha stopped beneath a tree and simply stood, eyes closed, letting the rain soak his robes. Rahula, unsure, paused beside him and whispered, "Shall we return?" The Buddha opened his eyes, smiled, and said, "There is nothing to return from. This is it. Not the next breath, not the next breakthrough. This moment, this softness, this rain." And so you do. The Buddha taught Rahula the value of patient effort, of small changes, of consistency not for perfection, but for peace. A rock is hollowed by drops of water, he said, not by force, but by time. You are that rock. You are being shaped not with violence, but with tenderness. You are deepening not by being more, but by softening into less. The rain is steady now. It soaks the moss around you. It washes the dust from the stones. It feeds the roots of the trees unseen underground. And you feel yourself being fed too, inwardly, spiritually, gently. You remember times in your life when something changed in you without your notice. You looked back months later and saw it, how your patience had grown, how your reaction had softened, how your breath had deepened in moments that once stirred panic. That is the Dharma. Not a flash, but a soaking. Not a revelation, but a remembering. You turn your palms upward now, letting the rain fill them. The droplets gather in the curve of your hands, then slip between your fingers. You do not try to hold them. You just witness the flow. Rahula in time became known not for dramatic insights, but for his gentleness, his patience, his willingness to sit quietly until the teaching revealed itself not as a lecture, but as a feeling, a way of being. And tonight, that is your way too. No striving, no pretending, just a quiet seat beneath the sky, just a heart opening like dry earth to gentle rain, just a mind that no longer runs but listens. The rain begins to ease, fading into mist. The trees around you shimmer in moonlight, silver droplets, clinging to every leaf, every blade of grass, every worn stone step. The whole world glows, now washed, softened, alive. You breathe it all in, the clean air, the soft earth, the knowing that nothing more is needed. You are being changed, not loudly, not instantly, but deeply. Let it happen. Let the rain shape the stone. Let the Dharma soak your heart. Let this moment, small, quiet, and perfect, be enough. The rain has stopped, now leaving behind a softened world. Each blade of grass bends under a single drop. Each stone holds a sheen like polished glass. And you, still seated, still quiet, feel the hush that comes after something sacred has passed through. From where you sit, you watch the steam begin to rise faintly from the stone path. The earth releases its warmth slowly, like an old memory rising to the surface. You draw your knees and arms gently wrapped around them and breathe. It's not just the breath of oxygen, it's the breath of arrival, of being exactly where you are without needing to go anywhere else. You think now of the moment Rahula once described in his later years, how he learned not just to walk with the breath, but to rest in it. How there came a time when he no longer meditated to attain anything, but simply to return, to be not to become. One of the Buddha's final teachings to Rahula was not spoken in a grand assembly, but in solitude. They sat beneath a tree together, father and son teacher, and student two monks on the path. The Buddha turned to him and said gently, "Even the bird in flight knows when to land." It was a simple image, a quiet metaphor, but Rahula carried it like a koan in his heart for years. You reflect on it now. How often have you flown, chasing, climbing, thinking the sky was the goal? How long have you stayed aloft, afraid to stop, afraid that if you paused you might fall? But the bird doesn't fall when it lands. It perches on a branch, tucks its wings in, listens to the wind. It no longer needs to ride. And so can you. You feel the invitation to land not with finality, not as an ending, but as a kindness, a returning to the ground beneath your feet, to the stillness beneath all movement. You lie back slowly, letting your spine meet the earth. There's a certain honesty in lying down. No more posturing, no more holding yourself upright. Just surrender, just trust that the ground will hold you, and it does. You look up at the sky now clearer than before. The moon is higher now, and the stars have rearranged themselves slightly, as if the heavens too are participating in this slow transformation. A bird calls in the distance, not a cry, just a single note, a sound of being, not of alarm. You imagine Rahula hearing such a bird decades after his ordination and smiling with the kind of understanding that needs no explanation. Letting go, he had realized, wasn't about giving up. It was about setting down the extra, the proving, the explaining, the needing to get anywhere else. You breathe in deeply. Rahula's path, like yours, had winding turns. He doubted. He faltered. He asked too many questions, or too few. He tried to impress. He tried to disappear. He did all the things human hearts do when they're trying to find home. But the Buddha never asked him to be more than he was. He only asked him to see, to witness. And you lying here with the cool breath of the forest sweeping over your body have become that pond. You hold nothing, and in that nothing you hold everything. You remember now the quiet strength it takes to stop trying, and you remember deeply without doubt that the heart, like the bird, knows when it is time. Let this be your time to rest, to pause, to perch gently on the branch of this moment. The wind rustles a few wet leaves above you. The stars blink slowly, like old friends keeping watch, and somewhere within a feathered part of you folds its wings. No more soaring, no more striving, only this, only peace, only the gentle truth that tonight you are not a lesson to learn or a project to improve. You are a being that knows how to land, and you have landed, right here, right now. The earth beneath you is cool now and deeply quiet, like it has exhaled after holding something for a long time. You remain on your back eyes, half closed, body still, and yet inside something luminous stirs. Not energy, not ambition, but a warmth as ancient as starlight. Above you on a branch just overhead, a fig hangs heavy in the damp night air, round, ripe, untouched. Its skin glistens faintly, the kind of shine only seen in moonlight. You notice it without effort. It simply becomes part of your awareness, as though your attention is not aimed at the world, but resting lightly across it. The fig does not rush to ripen. It does not demand to be picked. It does not ache to be seen. It simply hangs. It simply becomes. This too was one of the Buddha's teachings to Rahula. The fruit ripens not through striving, but through time and conditions. So too does wisdom. You reflect on the fruit of your own life, goals, dreams, states of mind you've tried to attain. You remember the effort, the constant reaching, the belief that if you just did a little more, said the right thing, held the perfect posture of peace, you would arrive. But fruit doesn't arrive. It grows slowly, invisibly from the inside out. And so do you. Rahula once asked his father, "How will I know when I'm ready?" And the Buddha, touching the bark of a fig tree, replied, "The tree never knows when the fruit is ripe. It simply waits." That waiting is not passivity. It is presence. The sun will come. The rain will fall. The wind will test the branch. The fruit does not control these things. It trusts them. You breathe into that truth. There is a part of you that is ripening even now, even as you rest, even as you listen to the world without moving a finger. A part of you that's becoming ready, not because you're doing more, but because you've stopped interrupting the process. You close your eyes again, and in the dark behind your lids, the fig still shines. You feel it now as a symbol, not just of wisdom, but of trust, of patience, of the great relief that comes when you stop asking, "Am I there yet?" and instead whisper to yourself, "I'm exactly where I need to be." Let that whisper echo inside you, not as a mantra to memorize, but as a quiet knowing. You touch your belly again and feel how the breath has become slower, now longer in its flow. The pauses between inhale and exhale stretch like twilight across the mountains. You are not controlling them. You are simply receiving them, like sunlight through leaves, like warmth through cloth. Rahula too had to unlearn the urgency of becoming. He learned to sit through seasons where nothing felt different. He learned to bow even when his thoughts wandered. He learned that practice wasn't always a mountain to climb, but often a field to lie down in. You lie in your own field now. The grass has begun to dry in places, and the scent of earth is rich and grounded. You think of all the seeds you've planted through your life, kindness offered, words withheld in anger, apologies spoken, pauses taken, breaths followed. Not all of them bloomed, not all of them bore fruit, but each was a gesture of care, a step on this winding path. And now, in this moment of ripening, you feel them again not as memories, but as roots. You are supported not by what you've achieved, but by what you've tended. The ripening doesn't announce itself. It doesn't ring a bell or paint the sky. It happens quietly, like figs in moonlight, like your heart right now. You are not waiting for anything. You are not lacking anything. You are simply becoming slower, becoming softer, becoming whole. You stretch your fingers out into the grass, feeling each blade like a piano key pressed gently against your skin. You open your mouth slightly and breathe in the scent of night green and damp with a hint of fallen petals. No one is watching you, and still the fig ripens, still the breath flows, still your soul opens. This is what Rahula came to understand, that no one can hand you enlightenment. No one can carve it into your mind. It grows from within when the heart has learned to stop resisting what is. And tonight, dear one, you have stopped resisting. You have begun to allow. And that perhaps is the first and final step. Let yourself ripen, without schedule, without pressure. Just be the fig hanging in the dark. Just be the breath rising and falling. Just be the one who rests without apology. Time has become wide. That's the only way to describe it now. The minutes no longer feel stacked, one after the other. Like a procession they've unfolded, like the petals of a lotus at dawn, revealing something spacious at the center. You are no longer measuring the night by hours or breaths, only by stillness, only by presence. You're lying beneath the fig tree still. The fruit sways gently in the breeze, not ready to fall, but not far from it either. And you soft, quiet, fully here, have let the world ripen around you. In the distance at the edge of the forest, the first soft colors of pre-dawn are beginning to form. Not sunrise, just the suggestion of light. The way clarity suggests itself before it fully arrives. Like forgiveness before the words are spoken. Like understanding that enters the heart before it ever reaches the tongue. You remember one of the last things the Buddha told Rahula: do not look outward with judgment. Learn to gaze inward with gentleness. Only then will you see things as they truly are. Rahula once asked how to see the world more clearly, how to discern truth from illusion, wisdom from ego. He expected perhaps a discourse on perception, a list of signs, a teaching in metaphors. But instead the Buddha gave him silence, not as neglect, but as space. And after a long while, he said, the world is seen not through the eyes, but through the heart that holds no judgment. You feel into that now. The times you have judged yourself for not being peaceful enough, wise enough, calm enough. The times you thought, if I were truly enough, I wouldn't feel this way. But the Buddha didn't teach Rahula to reject emotions. He taught him to sit beside them, like guests, like wind passing through an open door. He taught him to gaze inward with the kind of eyes that say, yes, even this belongs. Even the doubt, even the worry, even the moments when you thought you had forgotten everything you had learned. You turn your gaze gently inward, now not in analysis, but in tenderness. You feel what lingers in the corners of your body, a dull ache in the hip, a soft flutter in the belly, the quiet presence of memory. And instead of resisting any of it, you offer it space. You say to your body, you don't need to be different. You say to your heart, you don't need to perform peace. You say to your mind, you don't need to be quiet to be welcome. This is seeing without judgment. This is the gaze the Buddha offered Rahula, the kind that looks upon the world and upon the self, not with critique, but with kindness. The kind that asks nothing, fixes nothing, but watches everything with the patience of the moon. You shift slightly now, rolling onto your side. The grace clings to your robe, damp and cool but comforting. Your cheek presses gently into the earth, and you realize it's not just you resting on the world. The world is resting with you. The fig tree stands behind you. The stars overhead remain still, And even your breath is not alone. It's carried on the same air that touches leaves and dew and distant mountain stones. You are part of it all, and all of it is part of you. Rahula once said in his later years, when asked how he had changed, "I no longer seek to become a better version of myself. I've learned to meet the version that is here and walk beside him gently." You repeat that softly within walk beside yourself gently. Not fix, not strive, not edit, just accompany. Be with yourself as the Buddha was with Rahula, present. That leaf didn't need to cling, it didn't need to worry, and the tree remained whole. You bring that truth into your own breath. You feel the parts of you that are ready to fall away, self-doubt, comparison, that old ache of not being enough. They don't fall all at once, but they loosen, gently, naturally. You don't need to grip them anymore. They were just leaves temporary passing, and now, ready to be released, you press your fingertips gently together and bow not to an idea, not to a story, but to yourself. The self that stayed through the discomfort, the self that softened instead of striving, the self that listened. You have ripened, not in some distant future, not after years of practice. Here, now, in this quiet moment of dawn, you open your eyes slowly, and the first stroke of sunlight breaks the horizon. It spills across the temple stones, glistens on the damp leaves, and settles gently on your face. You feel its warmth, and for the first time in what may have been a long time, you do not flinch from it. You do not worry whether you deserve it. You simply receive it, like the fig receives the sun, like the bull receives water, like Rahula received his father's gaze, not as a judgment, but as a blessing, the blessing of being seen, and of seeing yourself clearly, not as broken, not as lacking, but as already enough. Let this be your morning. Let this be your truth. You are not striving. You are not climbing. You are resting. And in that rest, you are whole. Let the world awaken slowly around you. Let the warmth return. Let the sky widen. And let this final breath, this last quiet space, hold you gently, like the Buddha held Rahula, like the moon holds the tide, like the earth holds your entire becoming. And now, dear one, the journey draws to its close, not with a finish line, not with applause, but with a return, a soft, returning to the stillness that has always been within you. You don't need to remember every word of tonight's teaching. You don't need to hold tightly to Rahula's story or trace the exact shape of every breath you followed. The wisdom has already soaked into you, like rain into soil, like warmth into the bones of an old house. Let it settle, let it root, let it live quietly in the places that need it most. You have walked through silence. You have watched the moon. You have seen the beauty of an empty bowl, the trust of a ripening fig, the peace of a heart no longer needing to prove. So rest now, not as reward, but as your right. Feel your body heavy in the bed or cushion beneath you. Let your breath grow longer, smoother, deeper. Let the thoughts, if they come, move like clouds, slow passing, untroubling. You are not behind. You are not late. You are exactly where the Dharma lives here in this softness, here in this final breath. You have stopped trying to be worthy, and in doing so, you've discovered you already are. Sweet dreams, dear one. May your night be long and your sleep be deep. May your heart remember what it's always known. You are enough. You are enough. You are enough.